This is your program, The Tracker, and we are casting a spotlight on the youth involvement in the National Development Agenda, talking about Vision 2030. And the key principle driving this Vision 2030 philosophy is production, production, production. And we are here at Sky Farm. We are going to be talking about issues of production and the role of youth in the fruition of the Vision 2030 philosophy.
Sky.
I don't want to
Same with the feast.
Don't want
Kwenza
everything.
feast.
Everything's best farming.
Mugochiso, who is Sky Farm?
Sky Farm is a group of young, passionate farmers, all of them that are below 30, who just came together with an idea to say, you know what, we've identified what is the productive sector within our economy. And we have also noticed the demographic that is bulging in terms of youth figures. So we need to create a synergy between the two. So in the end, Sky Farm is a byproduct of the demographic composition and the major economic force merged together. I think the key issue that is confronting the young people nowadays is that of land. So therefore, as long as the land is not within your hands, and as long as you're not controlling the means of production, you can only do so much in as far as aiding the country to produce is concerned. That having been said, I think it also makes it categorically clear that this space that we are currently producing in is not within our hands and it does not belong to us. But however, we have managed to produce 4 million onions, 2 million white onions and 2 million red onions within the space. And we also produced 30,000 cabbages, and we are also currently doing a piggery project, and we've got around 40 beasts.
Talking about production, this is one key principle when you're talking about the Vision 2030 philosophy. As the youths, where do you stand?
The youth have got a major role to play, but oftentimes, more often than not, the youth are disabled because the youth do not have access to land. When the land reform was done, for example, we told you the average age for the group is like 25 or 24. So you can imagine how old most of the guys within Sky Farm group were when the land reform was conducted. So this has been a major disabling factor, whereby you want the youth to be producing. The youth have got the zeal, they've got the knowledge, they've got the expertise. We are fresh from colleges, etc. We see that the agricultural space is where we need to be, and surely we can insert some zeal and alacrity within the sector, but we are disabled in as far as land is concerned, in as far as finances, for example, are concerned, and things like that. But that having been said, the youth, I still stand with my view that they've got a key role to play in this economy, as long as I think these issues are ironed out.
And also talking about that, yourselves, you've also shown that indeed you can produce if given the space to do that.
Definitely we can produce, and also looking, maybe casting one eye into the future. This year we managed to produce about 5 to 6 hectares, but going back to the means of production, I think this is going to be like a chorus within my brief walk through the farm. If we have got the means of production, I think in the long-term view, we are looking to produce, I think, 10 times more than we produced here.
But some might ask, why, as the youth, have you decided to venture into farming? Most of the youth, they are seen in the CBD or even in the Twitter streets.
I think I can answer this question from a historic perspective. Historically, you see that Zimbabwe had special economic zones whereby you knew that if you are in the Shavani area, it's a mining area whereby they are producing asbestos. If you come towards the Midlands, we had David Whitehead Textiles whereby they were producing clothes. It was a farming area whereby they were producing cotton. If you go to Gokwe, it was a special economic zone that was producing something else in particular. So I think what we just need in the young people of today is an evolving of the mindset to say that where the money is not in the city. I think let us go back to that model whereby you had people that were producing in Zhishavani, people that were producing sugarcane in Chiredzi, people that were producing this and that within their particular provinces. So I think having introspected and studied that model very closely, and also having evolved our mindset, and also having opened up to endless possibilities around us, we just saw that farming is the way to go, since it is also a central linchpin within the economy that drives the Zimbabwean economy forward. And if you listened to that speech by the AFDB president, he said that agriculture maybe within the next decade is going to be $1 trillion space in Africa alone. So therefore, if you're a young person and you're aging fast as we are doing, you need to be able to identify these opportunities and maybe also participate or be a part in these spaces that are like that.
And also talking about here in Zimbabwe, there is the 8.2 billion agri economy contribution.
That is well and good, and I support that. But practically now is where we really need to be grounded in what we are projecting. That is all well and good, but let us do more action on the ground. And what is the best way to take more action on the ground to make sure that we meet that figure? The best way is to get more young people involved within farming. The best way is to get people to see the endless possibilities within farming. So maybe by producing what we have produced, which might not be much in as far as the population is concerned, I think we have also indicated that this is a possibility for young people. This is a space where, as a young people, you can say, I choose to take up farming in order to also be in line with the national vision, and it can actually work out.
And currently there is the land audit, and there is going to be some form of rationalization to the whole land reform program. As the youth, how should that sector be considered within this program?
Rationalization is a very good idea. The major beneficiaries should be young people. Why is that so? Because the young people, we've got the energy, we've got the time, we've got the ideas, we've got the innovation and everything you need. So as long as this rationalization, according to this issue at hand that we are talking about, is to pay special attention to young people and put young people at the forefront of receiving pieces of land, and also incorporate more young people in the national development agenda in as far as the agricultural sector is concerned, I think that we will go very far. And I think that it's my plea to those lawmakers to be in a position where they consider this, where they consider young people when they are redistributing this land.
Recently, the cabinet discussed issues around the principles of the Zimbabwe Youth Bill. How critical is that bill, and what sort of issues do you want to be included in that bill so that youth become focal points in terms of development in the country?
Okay, this is very, very focal. I think also my background before I came to farming also puts me in a position of maybe relative preponderance when we are talking to issues of of youth participation within the economy, or setting up of youth desks within ministries, or this youth bill. I think it is very, very key. Because like I said, if you look at our demography, 60+% of the population is young people. So therefore, anything that can be done in as far as the spirit of taking the nation forward is concerned, if that thing is to exclude youth, then we'll be going round and round in circles. I support that idea in principle, and I stand by it, and I say that it is essential that we continue going that way. And I would love to see our youth bill, this proposed youth bill, also including issues of key sectors like mining and agriculture, and how young people can be, maybe, can I say, attracted to that space, or how young people can be supported more, because you've got many young people all across the country that are doing things within these sectors, but the support mechanism has been generally very weak over the years. So I would love to see the youth bill addressing that. But more importantly, rather than it is about subscribing it in a book or in the constitution or whatever, I would like to see enforcement to these laws. If we say that young people in agriculture are to get support, let them get that support. Let it be practical, because in the past, you can also agree with me that we have had policies like the youth quota, etc. These have never really been implemented. But in terms of being filed into a neat document or in terms of being clearly accentuated, this had been in the past. But what we need to do now is not to celebrate policy or celebrate blueprints or documents. What we need to do is be on the ground and be more practical and achieve our goals.
How critical is the funding mechanism to issues of production?
The funding mechanism is very critical. I think it contributes a significant percentage because sometimes, as we were saying, you might have the land. While we have won the land question as young people, what is next? You also need to be able to finance the vision. You also need to be able to produce, and production is done. It is liquidated. It is fluidated by funds. But that having been said, also let me also clearly state and categorically that this project was funded 100% from our own pockets, from savings, from coming together as young people to do this. So now, making it synergize with the financial question that you had posed to me, imagine now if young people can come together and finance a project like this. What more now if the key financial players were to be brought to the young people, and young people can access funds, and young people can get not only funds but also financial services like financial literacy, which is key. I think it will put us also in a very privileged position, and before you know it, you'll see the economy booming.
This is still your program, The Trek, and we are tracking youth involvement and youth participation in the national development discourse. We take a short break. On your program, The Trekkers, you are casting a spotlight on the national development agenda. We are now joined by one of the youths who is becoming an active participant in the national development discourse. Of course, recently the cabinet discussed issues and the principles of the Zimbabwe Youth Bill that seeks to mainstream youth so that they become active participants in the national development agenda, also becoming very active in the economic, social and political spaces. And now we have Terence Shoko, who is one of the youths who is becoming very active in this discourse of development. Terence, can you just enlighten us your take in terms of the national development agenda? Of course, you did economics yourself, but why venture into farming?
Yes, for us, farming came out as a great opportunity as a nation, as a country, but also as youth, finding that there's a lot of tapped opportunity, especially in the horticultural sector. What we see is that most farmers in the country, they're comfortable to pursue the cereal crops, but then there is a lot of gap that we see, a lot of imports coming in as horticulture produce. So we were looking at the figures now to see that we could increase in terms of the import bill. So we decided that as youth, we were attracted to the figures that we could, the $1 billion space that is present in terms of importing.
Just do a breakdown of that $1 billion space that you have with respect to what you are producing here.
Yes, so we saw that as we're doing our research, see there's also lack of adequate information in terms of a central source of information for horticultural staff. But we realized that as a country, maybe perhaps per year, we import about 7,000 tons of onions every year. And each ton costing about $500 on average. That's about 3.5 or 35 million US dollars in terms of import money that is being channeled out of the country. So we decided as a youth, as a grouping, that it is high time now that we get into this sector. We internalize these funds instead of going out to spend on things that we can personally produce as a country within our borders. And then we keep the revenue inside, and we only focus on importing stuff that we do not have.
And how critical is that for the youth to really take this head on? Of course, many youths they are always resident on these Twitter streets or on the social media platforms.
See, the idea that most of Zimbabwean youth, or probably I would say African youth, have is that you need to finish your education and probably focus on attaining yourself a job or pursuing a career, which is good. But for a country like Zimbabwe, which is so rich in untapped opportunities, especially in the manufacturing sector, every economy requires industries like the agriculture industry, mining industry, to produce the primary source of inputs. So this agriculture farming business, to us, as we saw it when we started venturing into this business, is an opportunity for us to start supplying some sort of product into the market, into the economy, so that if there is anyone who is going to come to do what we call it secondary or value addition into the process, then we can be part and parcel of the job creation agenda, instead of waiting to attain employment, but rather we be the pioneers. As youth at this age, we are our age as a group, we are around 25 years of age. So imagine now, if we start this initiative at 25, by the time we reach 40, we will be great employers, in fact. That's our vision.
So going forward, where do you see yourself maybe in the next few years to come?
Yeah, we have a great growth agenda. We wish that in the next 5 years, right now we're doing 5 hectares under horticulture, which means that we can produce 300 tons per hectare, or rather 60 tons per hectare. We could do 300 tons. So we are really quite a distant away from filling the 7,000 ton gap. So we seek in the next 5 years, we want to be able to bridge entirely this gap of 7,000 tons and be able to assist our country, assist our economy in self-sustenance in terms of onions, in terms of even other horticultural produce. Because right now we're looking into doing also potatoes, whatever space where there's opportunities. We also have a growth vision of exporting. Look at the red onions here. There's a huge market for this kind of stuff in Germany, Europe, the USA, China, Japan. So we have a vision of saying, look, we need to get a point where we are exporting and supplying this stuff even to other countries.
This is the Tracker, your program that casts a spotlight on the national development agenda, the Vision 2030. Of course, the country is running towards becoming an upper middle income economy by 2030. And the key principle driving this Vision 2030 philosophy is production, production, production. And we are here at Sky Farm, where we are witnessing a testimony or the reality of production. Talking about farming and issues of production, what is required to increase your levels of production? And as young farmers, have you ever thought of going the issue of genetics?
We have thought of going the genetic way, but the problem, I did biotechnology in my undergraduate, but the problem in Zimbabwe, we have not yet embraced the issues of genetic modification. I think we have the National Biotechnology Association, because it's paramount, or it's important that for a nation we should embrace the issues of genetic modification in terms of food security. Genetic modification means that we will have hybrids, and then we have more yields in the field, more cabbages and more onions at a certain particular hectare. So we need to embrace those things. But people have this wrong notion that genetic modified foods cause cancer and other diseases, generic diseases. But it's not so. It's not medically proven that genetic foods cause cancer and other generic diseases. So as a nation, we have to embrace those things. As you see, our population is on the steady increase from 1980 till now. We are now 14 million. Maybe in 2050, we'll be 50 million. So we need to feed those stomachs. For us to feed those stomachs, our land is not expanding. We have to look at other ways, such as genetic modification.
Maybe away from the issues of genetic modification, the organic part, that which you're also taking part, how critical is that, and what are you also doing within the context of the partnership that we have here?
Okay, so we have seen that we cannot go the way of genetic modification for now. So in this, we have seen that it's better for us to optimize the land that we have. We need to utilize the land we have. We cannot keep on crying about sanctions, about, the economy is going down. Our economy is agro-based. So for us to kickstart our economy, we need to go back to the agricultural sector. So we thought as youth we should come together, and then we invest in agriculture, and we can help our economy, we can help ourselves, and at the end of the day we can also help our pockets.
I think it's very critical as young people for us to be productive and to take part in the production sector, because rather than us crying that we don't have jobs, what are we doing with what we have? We have our hands, we have our energy, we have got the resources, the little resources that we have. We better use this land and we get something out of it. And at the end of the day, we don't cry to anyone.
Maybe now as the clarion call in the education sector is to use the education so that it can empower yourself, so that you can start to exploit or explore the available resources. How critical is that as the youth to really rally behind that principle?
It's very critical, because I believe that an education sector that does not produce people who are productive, or that produces people who wait for jobs, is a bad sector. So I believe that the education sector should serve the purpose of training young people, so that after they are trained, they use that education that they have acquired from universities, from colleges, to actually create jobs, to create opportunities, to make this country productive.
Mogoye, looking at this is the testament to what you are calling production.
Yeah, I can say so.
And when you look at the production at this farm, of course Zimbabwe had become a net importer rather, of horticultural produce, including even onions. What role are you also playing so that that gap is reduced and we ultimately become self-sufficient in terms of production of these onions?
I think you've touched on a very important aspect. This was also part of the pulling factors that made us to come full-time into farming and say, you know what, we're no longer in the offices, we're going to focus on production full-time. Because when you have got a country that has got the land, that has got the resources at their disposal, yet we are still in a position whereby we are importing 90% of our horticultural produce, you see that there is a gap that needs to be addressed. And what we've been doing here, essentially, we came together as young guys to say, let us focus on working the land, because the land is readily available at our disposal. Let us find a place to put up. And we've got a glaring gap already in the market, like we were talking about. So what is it that we can do as young people? We can produce, we can pull our resources together from our own pockets, and we can try to make it work, because we see genuinely agriculture as a billion-dollar industry. We see it as one of our main or major pillars or key linchpins to the Zimbabwean economy. So therefore, the contrast has been vast in the past, whereby you see we've got a youthful population, but the uptake for agriculture, which is our key driver in the economy, has been low. So we've started, like the philosophers say, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. So this that I'm holding right here, I can say is the first step.
That has been your program, The Tracker, and we have been casting a spotlight on the youth involvement in the national development discourse. You have heard the aspirations, the ambitions of the youth in terms of driving this whole economic discourse. Until next time, goodbye.